Hi everybody. So this is an example video for your final project reflection. Your videos should be about 10 to 14 minutes in length. Hopefully this example will be a lot shorter than that, so you don't have to listen to me talk for too long. So I'm just gonna take you through the questions and that should give you an idea of what kind of answers I'm looking for as you make your own video. So I have my note sheet here. It's a little bit longer because there are a lot more questions because this is your final project. So I also have the questions up and my Canva carousel. Okay, so starting with number 1. So this is, just your basic introduction. For example, I chose Bike Santa Cruz County because as a teenager and then up until like grad school, I rode my bicycle for transportation. So thinking about the ways that people advocate for bicycling and bicycle infrastructure, that felt significant to me. And it's also significant to my major because this is what I studied in grad school. I did a thesis where I interviewed bicycle riders about their experiences riding and how they relate to other people and to the spaces that they bicycle through. So it was kind of geography of bicycling. And for number 2, I think the context of Santa Cruz that kind of affected this problem and the solution is that even though this problem is really common, there's not a lot of bike infrastructure anywhere in the world. There are some European countries that have a lot of bicycle infrastructure, but nothing near how much there is for cars, right? But Santa Cruz, despite not having that much bicycle infrastructure, actually has a fairly high rate of cycling. So this kind of leads to more advocacy and hopefully in the future, a lot more bike lanes, that kind of thing. So I think maybe this is more useful in areas that are urban or suburban. It's possible that in like a rural area, they might be more focused on trail building or something like that. But so I think similar places that could benefit from this kind of group are those urban or suburban places. But a lot of places already have bicycle advocacy groups. So, and then for kind of the format, I think for me, it wasn't super easy or super intuitive to match text to image. I'm usually more of a textual project kind of person, so this was a little bit difficult for me too. Just trying to find the pictures that I felt matched the text or kind of matched the vibe of what I was going for. And so I had to kind of dig for some of these pictures of folks bicycling in Santa Cruz. Like there's this one of the guy with his surfboard that's kind of, I don't know, stereotypical of Santa Cruz, right? So that was kind of a challenge. And also getting things to fit all together because I chose this large font for readability. I guess I could have made my font size smaller, but this is what I went with. So a slide that I am happy with is this one with the kind of like sketch diagram. This was one of Bike Santa Cruz County's projects where they were trying to turn half of this road into 2 bike lanes. They did not successfully do that, but I think that would have been neat. It's kind of the drive here is West Cliff Drive, so it's kind of like a scenic road anyway. It's not necessarily the best for commuting or something like that. So I think this slide is cool because it uses this image to communicate something that the that Bike Santa Cruz County does and like does or tried to do in a very specific place. So this specific street. So I think that makes it kind of effective. One slide that I struggled with was, let's see, I don't have the numbers on here. It's the one that talks about Watsonville. I think this one was kind of difficult to fit the text or all the things that I wanted to say in the text with the image. So, for example, I felt kind of limited in how I could talk about Watsonville just because I only had so much space to describe what the problem was, what their solution was, and then just a little bit about Watsonville. So, for example, I know in a lot of folks' projects, they mention like the impact or the environmental justice impact on people of color or communities of color. And so Watsonville is a community of color. It's something like 80% Latino, but I kind of almost reduced that through saying that it's a farming community. So there's a chance that you kind of understood what I meant there, but also a chance that you didn't. So I think if I had more space or if I used a smaller font, I could have talked a little bit more about what makes Watsonville unique, what makes it different compared to Santa Cruz or different areas, that kind of thing. So that was a slide that I struggled with just because I had so much to say in a small space. But that's kind of the challenge of visual storytelling. Then for number 6, I think one of the interesting things about Bike Santa Cruz County is that it kind of shows this intersection between environmentalism or environmental projects and like other issues, other things that people care about that aren't necessarily related to the environment. So like, for example, BSSC talks about how bicycling is good for local economies. So that's not necessarily what I think of when I think of environmentalism, although that is a different kind of sustainability, right? Economic sustainability. So this group gets a lot of business support, and they kind of make this argument that bicycling or supporting bicyclists is good for your economy. So it kind of shows, I guess that makes it clearer, this idea that you can have environmentalism in addition to all these other things that people care about. And so one idea that I think becomes more complex is thinking about that name change and the change in their goal of reducing car travel. And so it makes me kind of wonder, like, if bicycling is good for strong economies, was there a problem where being against the car seemed bad for economies? And so that kind of gets more complex, like how you frame an issue in trying to build a coalition like that, building like a teamwork, I guess. I think, so for number 7, we can think about kind of one thing. Okay, so one thing that I would think about with Bike Santa Cruz County is this kind of spatial pattern of what kind of projects they do in different areas within the county. So if on West Cliff Drive, which is in the city of Santa Cruz, they're trying to build these bike lanes, but then in Watsonville, they're organizing these group rides, it makes me think about like the different priorities that they are having or that they are deciding are appropriate in these different areas. So like, why is one location focused on building bike lanes and one is focused on community building? So that's one way that you can think of environmental justice geographically. Is there a different approach in different areas or something like that? So thinking about those spatial patterns, or thinking about this group on the city scale rather than on the county scale. For number 8, I did notice that one of your peers, Christian, did his project on SPUR, which is, did I write it down? No, I didn't. It's like the Society for Planning and Urban Research, or no, it's the SF Bay Area Planning and Urban Research Association. Anyway, one of the things they focus on is alternative transportation, in addition to a number of other things, but that's what Christian focused on. So that's kind of obviously intersecting. I think that they could maybe team up to share strategies, or they could have like a conference, 1 year in Santa Cruz, 1 year in San Francisco, or something like that. Kind of idea sharing. So I think they could easily team up, right? That overlaps really clearly. For number 9, I have not looked that hard at the projects yet. I have been grading other things. So I don't really have an answer for that right now. Um, but I trust that you can come up with something interesting. Um, and then for number 10, I do have social media. I don't post in general. I watch the Instagram reels, but I've been thinking about posting more or posting. I'd even maybe post this project. I like how it turned out, and I think that it's important to share things that I care about or that I'm passionate about. So I would consider posting it if I did post. But I'm curious if any of you end up doing so. Let me know. You're of course not obligated to post this on your social media, but I think it would be neat.